Our mission. Helping Parents Heal is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and allow for open dialogue. Attendance today at this meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Irene. That was wonderful. And I must say, I'm very grateful that Reverend Bill is here this evening. He has an incredible bio, and I'll try to do it justice. The Reverend Bill McDonald has been on a continuous spiritual journey spanning slightly over 7 decades. His whole life has been a mystical trip in search of gurus, the paranormal, and self-discovery and self-realization. He has written many books about his spiritually transformative experiences and near-death experiences, including supernatural events during his combat tour of duty in the Vietnam War. His autobiography, Warrior, A Spiritual Odyssey, takes us on a life quest for love, understanding, forgiveness, and enlightenment. His follow-up book, Alchemy of a Warrior's Heart, continues that mystical journey, including 4 trips to India for even more profound experiences with holy men, miracles, and his personal relationship with the divine. He has spoken around the world, including Germany, England, Wales, Bolivia, Vietnam, and India. He has been involved with a dozen films and documentaries. He was a keynote speaker at last year's IANDS 2019 conference. That's the International Association of Near-Death Studies. He has been on over 1,500 TV and radio shows over the past 20 years. He is the founder and president of Spiritual Warriors Ministries. He is the founder of the Military Writers Society of America and the American Authors Association. He is currently working with a half a dozen nonprofits, assisting everything from suicides to PTSD for veterans to World Peace Associations. He is an award-winning poet, author, documentary film advisor, minister, artist, a Vietnam War veteran, the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, 14 Air Medals, etc. He has been married for 51 years to his high school sweetheart, and he has 6 grandchildren. And I feel very grateful to be welcoming Reverend Bill McDonald.
And I'm just happy landing anywhere safely after being in 8 helicopter crashes in my life. So it always feels good to be on the ground. And as Irene pointed out earlier, I believe that's who it was that did the, we disavow anything he says that, you know, doesn't reflect our opinion. I like to say that everything I say doesn't reflect the opinion of my family or my wife in particular, just so they're safe. But anyway, thank you for inviting me here. I've heard nothing but wonderful things from people in this group, especially from Brian and other people that tell me all the good that's come out of this. I mean, I feel like I'm coming to you guys, but I'm feeling like I'm getting more out of this than I'm going to be giving, because when I see a group like this, there's such an energy that it's like a family. I mean, it's like family on steroids. And this is a family of choice to join together, circumstances not necessarily by choice, but choosing to come together. And I see this as a wonderful step forward. This is a beautiful thing. And I'm here, And anytime anybody's got a question, wave, raise your hand, get Elizabeth to unmute you and come on in. I take questions anytime, not afraid to answer anything. And I want to start off, since we're dealing with life and death and things and communication. And I lost two brothers when I was little. I lost two younger brothers a year apart, 1949, 1950, long time ago. But my mother lost two children in 2 years, and nobody ever talked to her about it. I mean, think about that. No support groups of any kind, zero. My stepfather didn't even talk to her about it. Nobody talked to her. I'm in the house, and imagine you see the ambulance come in and you see a brother go out. The next year you see the ambulance come in, brothers moved out, and you never see him come back. And nobody says nothing. That is the foundation which this organization is built up from. There wasn't much in place before you guys came around. There wasn't any kind of support group. I mean, so my mother went through decades. I mean, I think she was like in her 30s. And I think all the way up until she died, this was always an issue that she never talked about. Never talked about it, ever. And then my sister, younger sister, lost a daughter at 30 years old, and then lost a son at 40 years old. And she lost a grandkid. So I personally are not in your place, but I certainly have had a sister that's gone through this as a parent, and I've seen what it's done to my mother. So I applaud. I really applaud this. I think this is something that's needed. It's something that's spiritual. And I had a run-in with my youngest grandson, Johnny, who's this kid is one of those special kids. And I mean special kids because I'm thinking that these kids that are born like 1996, 1990s, maybe the late 80s maybe, but this last generation, this last 20 some years of children, this is a whole new group coming in. I mean, this is elevated from what we did. These kids are a different spiritual level. You can feel it. You know, I mean, some people call them, there's all kinds of names for these kids and stuff, you know, but I'm thinking, I just call them special kids. They're just more awake on the whole. So my grandson, he was 3 years old, and his father just lost his dad. So that would be his grandfather, the other grandfather, they called him, because we lived close by. He saw me every day, and he only saw the other grandfather once in a while, a few times a year. So he died, and it was just a couple of days, and I was babysitting him. He was in my house, 3 years old. He's playing with Legos. He's sitting there, and he's telling me, picks up this, they made a helicopter.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Could you please repeat?
My Siri is answering my questions. So he's playing with the Legos, and he's building a helicopter, and he's kind of doing this flying. And I go, what are you doing? He says, I'm trying to build a helicopter like I used to fly in the war. He's 3 years old, right? And he's talking about helicopters in this war. You know, it's like, so then it didn't surprise me. About 20 minutes later, all of a sudden I'm trying to talk to him, and he goes, shh, shh, quiet, quiet. I'm talking to Grandpa. And I go, yeah, you're talking to me. You're talking to me, right? You know, I'm trying to make fun with him. And he goes, no, I'm talking to the other Grandpa. And so I kind of listen. I said, what does he say, Johnny? And he listens, and he goes, I love you. So, of course, I believed him. And then I thought, well, you know, his wife at that moment was packing all his stuff up from their house, putting it in boxes and taking it to the Goodwill. I mean, it was just fresh. She's just doing it. So I call her up. And I said, no, I got a story. I said, this communication's for you. Because she's not ready for it. She wasn't really opened up to it. I mean, she was, and I told her the story, and she broke down and cried. But it's what she needed, and it's what she needed to hear. that her husband was communicating from the other side. So when people tell me that there is no life on the other side, first off, I want to tell people there is no other side. It's all here. It's all now. There's no life after death. There's just life, right? I think you probably heard that from about 50 sources, but that's the real truth. And having survived 3 of my own near-death experiences, one of them at 8 years old. At 8 years old, I was taken to the hospital, San Jose County Hospital in San Francisco Bay Area. But I was sent home from school. I was so sick, and nobody was taking me to the doctor. Nobody. And finally, my aunt saw me and said, "Hey, you got to call a doctor." Doctor comes, sees me in about 5 minutes. I'm being transported to a hospital. I get to the hospital, strap me. I'm 8 years old. Strap me on a gurney, and they wheel me away. And my stepfather and my mother just go. And I spent 1 year in the hospital, most of it in isolation. No toys, no TV, visitors 10 to 15 minutes a Sunday. That was it, right? You're a little kid. They wake you up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then they turn the lights off at 9, and all day long you just lay there, and it was total bed rest. I couldn't get up and walk around, do anything else. Anyway, but the first night there, they're telling my parents, "You better prepare yourself because we don't think this he's going to make it. You brought him in too late." You know, they were neglectful. They should have brought him in earlier, but they didn't know. So I'm wheeled away, and then they do some procedures, and they're taking some fluids out of my lungs and doing all kinds of stuff. Nobody's holding my hand. Nobody's telling me what's going on. I'm 8 years old. I'm totally alone. And then they put me in a room, shut the door, turn off the lights, and it's dark. And it's like, I have no clue what's going on. And then I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, in the total darkness, it's like there's no need to breathe. There is no breathing. There is no breath. It's just, I'm kind of floating, kind of like, and the room starts to get lighter and lighter and lighter. And pretty soon it's bright. It should have been burning and blinding me. It was so bright, but it didn't. But it was like that kind of brightness. And I realized that I'm no longer laying down. In fact, I turn around and I look, and down on the bed, laying down, there's the physical me. I go, I know that guy. I know that body, but that's not me. That was my thought. That's not me. At 8 years old, I know that's not me because I'm me sitting on top of this physical body. And I was just kind of sitting in an upright position with the body laying down. I wasn't really floating too high or nothing. I'm just sitting there. And then there's this total calmness, this total peace that I imagine, and I've gone through this experience 3 times, when death really comes permanently, you know, like, oh, you get to chicken out. It must feel the same way. It was peace. I mean, I was not adversely fighting this thing. It was like, oh, this feels good. This is beautiful. This light is beautiful. This feeling is beautiful. And then it felt like, imagine you have 15 million mothers, Italian mothers on top of that, like that all loved you and all want to get your hands on you and hug you, right? And kiss you and pinch your cheeks, right? Imagine 1 million of those and you're an 8-year-old child. That's what it felt like. It felt like 1 million mothers were loving me. I mean, it was really divine, literally. And then I'm entertained or given or presented. I didn't really analyze it, but I'm sitting there in this whole panorama around me, kind of like this phony scenery behind me kind of thing, right? You're kind of looking at some kind of image like that. And you're like, oh, you know, virtual. That was like, not virtual, it was reality. And I'm looking at this cloud-like light that's shining around me. And I see scenes. It's like unfolding in front of me. is the next 50 years of my life. I was about 8.5, and it actually turned out literally about 58 years and a half. It ended just before my 59th birthday, but it was a series later on of deja vu. I knew about John F. Kennedy's assassination. I didn't know at 8 years old. I had no clue who he was, but I see this guy that's kind of like the president, and all these, all the scenes you saw on TV. I saw him. I saw the assassination, and the only thing different about it was, in my visions, there wasn't one lone assassin. But I could have been wrong. But in the vision I'm given, there's more than one person. Anyway, we'll let it go at that. But I see my girlfriend, who I met in my freshman year. We were both 14. I'm still married to her, by the way. So at 14 years old, I meet somebody and I know she's my wife. And of course, you don't tell somebody that in high school. Hey, look. But I knew my wife. I saw my children. I saw myself in Hawaii, being a kahuna. Saw myself in Europe doing different things. I saw myself in war, but I had no clue. It was an Asian war. It had helicopters, And when I say that, I'm thinking about my grandson. I'm telling you the story about the helicopters. It was like, yeah, I kind of saw the helicopters like he did. It's just, it's far away, but there's these things. And I saw things happening around me, not so much to me, but around me. Years later, people say, well, how come you're so brave? I mean, you walked in the middle of battlefields. There was 500, you're shooting at people, things are going, explosions, and you're just calm. I said, any fool can be a hero if he knows what happens beforehand, right? Real heroes are scared. Okay, so I don't consider myself ever a real hero, because it's like, they're not going to get me. I mean, because I know I'm on the other side of that war. I know I married my high school sweetheart. I know I have children. I know where I live. I know I moved to different towns. I see all these things unfolding in my life like a gift. And in the process of that, here's the strange part. In the process of that, there's two numbers that keep tumbling in this scene. It's a 29, the number 29, and then it flips over the 2. So the 2 all of a sudden looks like a 5. So it's 29 and 59. So for many years, and I've had epiphanies on this. Every 20 years, I look at it and I go, oh, maybe this is what it means. So at first I thought, well, at 29, 59, my 8-year-old mind says, maybe that's when I expire. Maybe that's when I die. It's going to be a 29th year. And maybe if I survive that, maybe it's the 59th year, right? Then later on, I told somebody about this, when I was in my 40s or 50s, the person says, oh, no. That's when Saturn comes. I'm not an astrologer. And I go, 29, 59, you got Saturn changing life. It's kind of like a death, you're changing things, who you are. I said, okay, I don't know about that. But then when I experienced my second near death, I'm in India. By the way, when I went to India, because it says 4 trips, when I went to India, I would spend 3-4 months. I was immersed in India. I'd go there, and if you add up all the time there, it's over a year, for those 4 trips. I mean, I was there a long time. Ask my wife. You're gone. I got the credit card, right? All right. So she refurbished the house when I was gone. But anyway, so I'm taking this trip at 9 years old. When I got out of the hospital, I decided that I was going to take really super care of myself. I mean, I was changing my eating habits. I was changing everything I did. And I became a vegetarian, only one in the family, when I got out of the hospital at 9 years old. And being a vegetarian in 1950s, early 50s, is pretty darn hard to do. You can't go out and get nothing. Even if French fries are cooked in something that's not, vegetarian. So, and then I realized that, no, I got to take care of this body, because I almost died when I was 8. And so not only become a vegetarian, but I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I didn't do any drugs. I didn't take aspirins. I didn't drink coffee. I didn't drink tea, no caffeine, no nicotine, no sugar, add sugar to nothing, add salt to nothing. It became I couldn't get rid of it, but if I had to add it, I didn't. And so I got into meditation, yoga. I was meditating at 2 years old. So that's the background. So now let's go to India, flash forward. I'm traveling on my first trip to India, and I'm 58 and a half. I'm almost going to be 59. When I get back, I'm going to turn 59. So I have read the book Autobiography of a Yogi. Just let me see hands here. Anybody read that book or heard of that book? Okay, a few people. All right, a few people. That once you read that book, and I advise it's great reading. It was written in 1946, the year I'm born, of course. It's by Paramahansa Yogananda. But in the book, he introduces the world, the universe, to an avatar named Babaji. And this was done at a cave in the Himalayan mountains. Very special cave with Larry Masha, this great guru. And I read that at 9 years old. And I go, I'm going there. I'm going to find that cave and I'm going to meditate there, right? That was my goal. And at the time, I made up my mind to do this. I had no idea where in India was. I'd never been there. And I didn't know anybody that'd been there that knew where it was at. So when I went to India on this first trip, I decided that I better do everything I want to do while I'm here. I mean, I want to go to this cave. That's number one, because I may not be back again. And at the time, I had a heart attack in Machu Picchu in Peru. I had a heart attack in Vietnam in 2002. I had a heart attack in China. I had a heart attack. I mean, you name it, right? Germany. I mean, everywhere. I've had multiple heart attacks, right? So me traveling is always an iffy thing. But there in India, and I'm only been there like 3.5, 4 weeks. And I find somebody, hire a car, and we actually find the ashram. It's a YSS ashram, part of Self-Realization Fellowship. And that ashram is responsible for maintaining this cave. So I go there to the Swami. And I say, I want to go to this cave. And the guy says, everybody's gone. He says, I'm the only person there. Nobody can take you to the cave. They all went to Ranchi for a convocation. I go, well, I got to go. So you sleep on it and we'll talk tomorrow. So the next day, I tell the Swami, I says, look, I may never be back this way again. I didn't feel too healthy or nothing. I said, I may come back this way again. Let me go. And he says, well, okay. So he takes out a scratch piece of paper, takes out a pencil, pen, and he does a bunch of chicken scratch on a piece of paper. And here's the instructions that me and my driver had and my friend. I want you to go down the road. It's out between 20 and 40 miles down this road. And you'll see several turns, but don't take those. You'll come to one turn, but you'll know that's probably the one you want to take, but don't. Go to the next one. I'm going, what? So this is how the instructions went. And then you turn off that, go down the end of the road until you feel like you don't want to drive any longer, get out, and then walk down this path, and you'll see all these trailheads, but there's one that's marked. Follow it to the top, and you're okay. And he goes, can you find it? And I said, yeah, because I figure I am one of the luckiest guys I know, to be honest with you. I really am. I'm going, and the driver's shaking his head. He ain't going to find it. I said, just listen to me. We'll find it. So we leave there, and he goes, now, here's the keys, because you need keys to get into the temple, and you need keys to get into the cave. It's all locked up now. He says, I'm locking up the ashram with all your stuff inside, your everything, passport, everything's in here, at 5:30. So don't be late, because I ain't coming back out to open up the gates. We said, okay. So early in the morning, it's right after sunrise. We're going down the road, and I tell the driver, stop here, turn here, do that. And my buddy that's traveling with me and the driver thinks I'm crazy, but we finally stop, we get out, we start to walk. And then we find a bunch of cow trails and people trails and what they call community trails, all coming down this dirt road. And there's, 10, a dozen, 20. I mean, there are all kinds of them. No signs. And then finally the driver points out something on the side of the road, and somebody took the sign and tossed it up on this hillside. So we figured it had to be one of these 12. It's close enough, right? So we just said, we picked one. Anyway, we got lost. We're going up the mountain. I got dysentery. I'm having seizures, epileptic seizures are kind of coming and going. I'm having chest pains. I'm having a heart attack. I'm sweating, really sweating. And then I think I'm doing really good because after several hours, I'm not sweating anymore. And I'm going, oh, I don't have a problem anymore. I'm dry. I didn't know that was a symptom of anything like dehydration, but okay. So finally, by chance, we see the temple. We get up there. I'm exhausted. We finally go into the cave, and I meditate. When I went into this cave, I was carrying I had a typed up 3-page list of computer generated 10 indicia size names. I put names of everybody I ever met. Friends, foes, bosses, people in the military, people that have died, people that were alive, my enemies, everybody I had on this list. 3 pages, 2 sides printed. And I said, I'm going to take this with me around India to all the holy places. And I'm going to ask saints and sages, whoever I meet, to bless the paper and bless it. So I got in the cave, and that wasn't good enough. I decided I was going to mentally read every name. And some were not names. Some was like, I wrote on there because I figured God would sort it out and figure out who they was. So I said, the hitchhiker in 1990 that I picked up, right? I don't know his name. God does, right? The little girl that was begging, Bowman, So I had odd things like that on there. But mostly I had people on there that I truly felt were enemies, that were filled with bad things going on in their life. I figured, my God, they need God and the divine more than I do. I gotta pray for them. So I went in there and I prayed for them all. Why I'm having all these seizure things, heart and everything else. Finally get through. We walk out, totally lost, and I'm dizzy. And I'm walking down this trail, and I come to a 30-foot cliff. The good news is it wasn't a straight shot. It would go down 10, 12 feet, and it'd bounce on a little tiny ledge, and then I'd bounce down to another. It was like 3 bounces. I hit the bottom on a big rock. Anyway, so I'm at the top. I mean, the heart, you could hear the heart 3, 4 feet away. It was just, and getting slower and slower and slower. And my pulse is just fading. And all of a sudden I'm dizzy, and I'm doing a somersault, and I'm falling off this cliff, and I'm landing on top of this boulder about the size of a Volkswagen Bug. And I'm looking up at the sky. And I realize that I'm no longer breathing, that there's no pulse, there is no pain. And I'm kind of doing this, here we go again. Here we go again. And I'm almost 59. So I'm thinking, maybe this is where it's supposed to happen at 59 years old, right? Maybe this is it, right? So I'm enjoying this thing, and I'm looking up at the sky, and it's kind of like the cartoon, the Simpsons, and the sky kind of does this thing, in parts. And that's what it kind of felt like. Next thing I know, I'm up 20, 30 feet, and I'm looking down. And I go, I know that guy. Yeah, I know that guy. That poor guy, that body's hurting, right? He's got some problems. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm feeling love. And while I'm looking down, I'm thinking, if this is my time to go, and this is interesting, having 3 near-death experiences, I've never once in any of these experiences said, God, send me back. Never one time, ever. And I had a wife waiting for me. I had children waiting for me. I had a mother waiting for me. Never, ever asked the divine, hey, send me back. I got more pain and suffering. Please send me back. Never. Which is interesting, because I haven't met too many people that ever said they asked to come back. It's like, so anyway, so maybe it's not such a bad thing. Moving. So there I am. I'm looking at my body, feeling just blissed out. And I know you don't have a spine in this spiritual body I'm in, but it's like, if that's my spirit in the spine of the spirit, my kundalini is just going beautiful. The energy is just running up and down this invisible spine in me. It's like, wow, this is kind of cool. And then I look down and I see a a cobra snake, a very large cobra snake. Now, I say that, and I have to stand on record, because first time I told this story, I think it was 5-7 feet long or something. My wife heard that story. 3 years later, she hears me on a tape or something telling the story about a king cobra. This thing's got to be 12 feet. She goes, that snake keeps growing every year. It adds a foot. I go, well, Irish, But anyway, it was big. If one crawled over your feet, I'm going to tell you right now that your verb that you would use would be, it's huge, it's large, right? You wouldn't get a tape measure out measured. So this thing's crossing my feet. But instead of making me anxious or fearful, it's just the opposite. It's like love. I loved that snake. And all of a sudden it was like I had two angels with defibrillators, one in this guy's hand and one in this guy's hand, and they just went, and it was like my kundalini just got zapped with these fibrillators. It was like, energy just shot up through me out the top of my head. It was just energy and light, and I'm jumped up and I'm on my physical feet. My heart is pumping. I'm not dizzy. And I'm looking at this snake and it's crawling on my feet. And I'm reaching down. What am I doing? The most logical thing a stupid man does. I'm grabbing it with my hands. We're talking about, one of the most poisonous snakes in the world. This is not defanged. It's not one of the pet ones. And I'm trying to grab this snake as it's slithering by. And I chase it down this pathway where there's tall grass, and I'm still trying to grab it. I couldn't get my hands on it. And this is a true story. Couldn't get my hands on it because between my two hands, I couldn't get a full grip around the whole body. Now think about the size of that snake, right? I couldn't get both hands around it, and it just slithered through. So it slithers through and it goes behind a small trickling waterfall. It was only about 7, 8, 9 feet at the most. Really small, not on any maps. Might have been seasonal. And I'm looking at that, and the snake crawls behind it in a little cubby hole, hiding. And all of a sudden I get this blissful thing, and I go, because I remembered Autobiography of a Yogi in that chapter, where after Larry Masha, this guy got this sacred technique of Kriya Yoga, he was told to go down and wash by the stream, and there was a little waterfall, and he got his feet back on the ground. And there I was, looking at that waterfall, thinking of that story, thinking, I wonder, because they never found the waterfall, I wonder if this is it. I literally stumbled upon it. I'll never be able to find it again. Oh, that's a true story. I really did. Anyway, eventually my friend got tired of all this, thought I was crazy. He says, let's follow the stream down. We'll find some help. And we found help. We hired some farmer children, these little 8, 9-year-olds. We gave them, look, you guys help find our car. You got to get $5, right? Oh, wow, okay, great. So they did. We found our car. We drove back just as the guy's locking the gate. And I told the guy the story. He says, did you find the cave? And I said, yes. And I started telling the whole story about getting dizzy, getting dysentery, having a heart attack, dying, the whole thing, blow by blow. And I had bruises. I had a torn shirt. I had dirt. Everything wrong with me. I mean, just terrible shape. And this woman from Alaska was at the ashram, and she's listening to this conversation. And she kept interrupting. She goes, hey, mister, don't you know what they said? And she kept doing that. And I said, okay, what do they say? She says, it is said that those that go to Babaji's cave and have the most arduous journey have the greatest blessings. And the Swami just goes, and he walks away, right? I'm going, what? Anyway, so now let's go to my third near-death experience, because it kind of trickles in from this, because being an American male, what do most guys do when they're having health problems? Nothing, right? I just had a heart attack. I was just dead. This is like beginning of November. I go home, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, the last part of January, after 3 collapses in my garage, heart attacks, I decide maybe I should go to the hospital. Maybe I should go get checked out. I tell my wife, I don't want to alarm her. I just go, Carol, I'm not feeling too good. I think I'm just going to go down to the ER. I'm just going to check out some stuff. I'll be back. And I get in my own truck while I'm having this heart attack, full-blown heart attack. And I drive my pickup truck 7 miles into Sacramento. Get out, got to find it. I don't know if you've ever been to a hospital trying to find a parking spot around the ER is pretty hard. I found a parking spot. I get inside and there's a line. If you don't come in an ambulance, you got to stand in a line. They figure you're good enough to walk in, you can stand in a line, right? I see a few people shaking their heads. All right, you know what I mean? So I get in line, there's 18, 20, 25 people ahead of me. It's 20 minutes of this line. I get up there to hand me a clipboard, the ultimate weapon of the medical profession. Fill out the paperwork, right? Okay, great. So I fill it out and I come back and I go to get in that line. So there's another line. I get in that, it's a shorter line. I get to the front of this line. I'm still having a heart attack this whole time. It's killing me. But I'm just like I am right now. Just like this, you know. So I get up there and the nurse reads the clipboard. She goes, she laughs. She laughs at me. She goes, you think you're having a heart attack? I said, no, I know I'm having a heart attack. I'm having one right now. I've been having one for the last couple hours. She goes, I'll be the judge of that. Sit down. So she sits down, puts a stethoscope on me. And next thing you know, she's yelling and shouting for some people to come. They put me on a gurney. They strap me down and they take me into see the doctor. And I'm going, oh, you believe me? She goes, yes, you're having a heart attack. I said, well, I know that. So I came in. She says, yeah, but you're so calm. I said, that's who I am. So I go into the doctor. Now, remember the 2959 thing, okay? So I go in there and the guys look at me, oh, we got to do surgery. We got to do this stuff right away. I said, no, we can't do it right away, doc, because I got something I got to do this weekend. And the guy goes, oh, this is really serious. And I said, well, tell me this, doc. I said, here I'm going to be in the next several weeks, I'm going to turn 59 years old, right? I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do cigarettes. I don't do drugs. And I got the whole list of stuff I don't do. And I exercise and I do yoga meditation twice a day for several hours. And I do yoga itself. I'm doing all this great stuff. And then he looks at me and he goes, Mr. McDonald, looking at your genetics and everything, he says, I would have guessed that if you had not done that at an early age, that you would have been dead a long time ago at, say, 29 years old, instead of almost 59. I'm going 29, 59. So when I had those 29, 59, then I came out and changed my whole diet, my whole way of life. Did I take destiny and stretch it, right? So then I'm thinking, okay, 59. Okay, we got past the 29, but now I got the 59 staring at me, right? And in the fourth grade, I was born in San Francisco, and I moved to Sunnyvale. But in the fourth grade, I met a guy in my class, an Irishman, Paul H. O'Brien Jr., and I'm William H. McDonald Jr., right? Two Irishmen. His mother and my mother happened to be hospital mates. They shared a room in a maternity, and we were both delivered within an hour of each other, same day. We didn't discover that until we compared birthdays. What? He died just before he was 59. Drank, he smoked, did all these things, the vices. And I'm looking at him thinking, well, if you believe in astrology, then that's exactly what was destined for me. The only difference between us was about an hour of birth time on the birth chart. Otherwise, we would run down the same place. So that was kind of spooky going in for that procedure. I survived. Okay, that's a spoilers alert. I survived that. I survived that to go back to India for umpteen other times. And I'm in India and I'm speaking at Pune to the women's club. There's like 300, 400, 500 women there. And then I'm speaking at the big stadiums introducing this guru, but I'm giving a talk before. I'm kind of like the opening act, you know, kind of a little introductory. I mean, the guru let me introduce, but I take advantage of it, go as long as they don't hook me off the stage, right? Oh, introduce, okay. And then an Irishman, I got to tell stories, right? So I'm at an event, I have a major heart attack. His wife, the guru's wife, insists I go to the doctor. You know, guys, I'm okay. And they go, no, you got to go home immediately. So I fly home. They let me fly from India to Germany, to Denver, to Sacramento, California, with a thing from the hospital emergency saying I need surgery. To this day, I'm going, what? What? I mean, think about it. And it's no surprise that by the time I got to Denver and got off the airplane after a day and a half travel, right? I get to Denver, I'm in line at the customs, and I collapse. And two paramedics come and they treat me for 6 hours. And you ready for this? And then they let me get on a plane to Sacramento. When you get there, see your doctor. So I get there, and I'm in the hospital in Sacramento. And 4 days in intense care, ICU, so I could be strong enough for them to cut me up. So I have open heart surgery. Now, this near-death experience, I haven't heard anybody else's that even approaches. This is beyond weird. And then it gets to the point, well, was this a near-death experience? Was this materializing two bodies? Or was this something else? Now, it was predicted, and I'm going to skip over some because you don't have enough time on this to go into this, but sometime if you go to my YouTube channel and you watch my video on what they call naughty palm leaf readings, and I had this thing done. These predictions, these great gurus, rishis, 2,500 to 3,500 years ago, dictated, they channeled. That's more, you understand channel. I know you got a bunch of people that channel here. They channeled information about people coming in the future. And this was like before Jesus. I mean, it's way back, right? And then these guys wrote these things down on palm leaves, and it said that if you have one, it's there. Or you might even have two or three, from different lifetimes. You might have two for this lifetime. And so I didn't believe any of that. I was at an ashram, and the guru says, you got to go get this done. And I go, no, I don't believe in that stuff. I don't need any fortune tellers. Anyway, so I went and I got this thing done. Now, one of the weird things they did was they made a prediction. They said, in such and such amount of time, you're going to travel to southern India, and you're going to travel to this Shiva temple, and you're going to take a trail that goes uphill. And you're going to walk from 2 to 4 hours up this trail. And when you get to the top, you're going to see all the rishis sitting there. Campfire, rocks, tree stumps, whatever they're sitting on. And they will welcome you there to their little family there, right? And you won't have to ask them any questions because you will know all the answers. And I think, okay, this is good. It's a good story to tell. But everything else they made these predictions, and sometime we come on and just talk about that. If you want, I'll come back and just talk about that. But all these predictions they made, everything that they've predicted has come true, except for the death they predicted, which is supposed to be this year, 2020. So, which is interesting because when you go in to get this reading done, they take your thumbprint. 10 years ago, I had the thumbprint done, real easy to get, went boom, squiggly lines, they found my thing. This year, a guy contacted me that does, what was the Palm Leaf Reading Institute, and they said, we'd like to do a reading for you to make sure, to check this thing out, how good it works, and all that stuff. And I said, well, okay. I said, I don't know if I got anything left to read. He says, well, you might have a second one. So I gave my thumbprint. I took about 40 or 50 thumbprints. I couldn't get a thumbprint. It was a smudge. I finally sent it in to them. It took them a couple of weeks. They would magnify it. They probably figured, but it's like my thumbprints in 10 years are just disappearing. So I thought, wow, no predictions after 2020, and my thumbprints are disappearing. All right. We're back on this mountaintop. All right. So I was supposed to go to this mountaintop and learn something and do something. That's all I was told. So now we're back in surgery. They're wheeling me down the hall. They put me on a table. I'm a little modest, but I'll tell you, I was naked, flat naked. There's no modesty in the operating room. I found that out real quick. Like, at least I got him to put a sheet under me because it was cold metal. And so I'm laying there and getting ready to, ask the doctor. So what are you going to do? He says, well, we're going to, good bedside manner. We're going to rip your chest open. Not we're going to gently and surgically open. No, we're going to rip it open. And I'm going to put this device to hold, because I go, doc, I don't need all these details. Just, what's there? So I said, am I going to feel anything? He says, well, only 2 to 5% of the people feel anything, because we're going to have you on, we're going to stop your heart, and we're going to stop your lungs, and we're going to pump it into a machine. The machine's going to oxygenate that, and that's what's going to keep you alive, a heart-lung machine. And I go, you mean I'll be dead? He says, well, technically, we're keeping your body alive with these machines. He says, but yeah, if we lost electricity, yeah, you're not here. I go, really? You're going to disconnect this thing and all that? I said, okay. But he says, yeah, you probably won't feel it. He says, but when you're under the anesthesia, once we disconnect you and hook you up to the machine, we have to cut back on how much anesthesia we give you. So you're not in that state where you don't feel anything anymore. If you're going to feel anything, that's when it's going to start. And I said, well, how long is the operation going to be? He says, well, 6 hours to 8 hours. Oh, okay. I got nothing better to do. I'll stick around, Doc. Go ahead. So I count backwards. You know, they give you the shot. You count backwards like 96. And I'm gone. When it gets to 96 or whatever, I'm no longer laying on that table. My body is. I know my body's there. I could feel them with their hands and everything. But I am standing in India, southern India, and I'm standing in a plaza outside this temple, and it's a Shiva temple. And I know intuitively that's the temple they told me I was supposed to go to. I look, there's a hill. And I look around and people are walking around me and bumping into me. They see me. I'm not an astral body. I'm not a body of light. I'm not a rainbow body. I'm an actual physical body. And of course, being modest, I'm fully clothed. I've never figured that one out, but I'm fully clothed. It's like, well, you know, if you're going to have something happen spiritual, at least I got to go with clothing on, right? So anyway, so God takes care of you. So I figured, well, you know, I got 6 to 8 hours. They just started this. I'm going to walk up this hill. What else I got to do? I'm here, right? But people are looking at me, and I'm looking at people, and I feel the heat. I feel the sunshine. I see the sky. I touch things. All my senses are there. I hear the birds. All practical purposes, I am another body right there. All right. So I walk 2 hours, 4 hours. I have no clue, but I walk up. I finally find the top of the hill, and there, sitting in a big circle around this sacred fire, are the rishis. Now the rishis are, if you've ever seen pictures of these Indian rishis, they kind of look like they all went to Jamaica for a vacation. They all got that weird hair comes out, you know, like the Jamaica man. They all look like that, right? I'm going, wow, this is, anyway, they're all there, plus one. The guru at the ashram that sent me for my reading, his name was Gornoff. He was there and he was standing there like this going, you? Okay, great. I'm sitting there and I got all these guys that are supposedly, they know it all, right? And I don't have a single question for them. I can't think of a question that needs to be answered. It's either like, I already know the answer, or I don't care. Take your choice. But it was like, no burning question, nothing. It's like, I understood. There was no need for words or anything else. So then this cloud, do you remember that cloud? 8 years old, the cloud comes back. I'm going, oh, we're back here again, right? And at the time, I'd been in so much pain and so much health, having so many health problems. I mean, major stuff in my life, including, I don't know if you can see by looking at my nose, but this nose was amputated. This is rebuilt from my shoulder. I don't know if you can see that or not. All right, that's rebuilt for my shoulder blade. That's another whole story. So there was a part of me, I had a wife and I had grandchildren, I had daughter and son. I did not want to go back. I'm there feeling pretty darn good. This is where I belong. No, this is home. I was just a visitor back there. This is home. This is more real than that. And I knew my heart of all hearts, my heart was on a table someplace, but I knew in the other heart, no, I don't want to go back. If I have a choice, I'm not going back. If I'm given a choice, I'm not going back. So all of a sudden, this guru guy, Gurnoff, looks at me and he goes, Bill, don't give up heart. You can skip a few beats, but don't give up heart. And I go, no. And all of a sudden, this cloud, this voice, this feminine, it's always feminine. When you think of love of God and you think of mercy and compassion, it's never a man. It's always a feminine energy, right? It's this feminine voice. It's just something that men will never understand. They're always seeking it. They're always seeking it, right? But they don't understand that it's from compassion and from love. It's that birthplace of love comes from this feminine energy. And that was there. And it sounded like, there's no way to, it was like a 24, 22-year-old, a woman in her peak youth. I mean, it was just this youthful, vibrant, loving voice, nothing sensual, but angelic. I mean, it was just beautiful. And this voice goes, Bill. She got my attention, right? I go, I just hear this voice in the clouds, right? And she goes, you've done enough. You've helped everybody you're supposed to help. You've carried out everything you were contracted before you came in to do. I'm promising you peace, love, bliss, no pain, no sorrow, joy, joy. And I'm going, yeah, that sounds good, right? And the guru interrupts me. And he goes, Bill, gets back to that, don't give up heart. You can skip a few beach stuff. And I go, why? She's promised me love, peace, all this good stuff. What are you going to give me? He says, I'm going to give you more pain than you ever had before. I go, what? He says, before you used to have pain. I used to go to a dentist, right? And I got a cavity down the root. And I tell him, no shot. Just drill it down because I got to do some. And the doctor would do all these. He's drilling in that nerve and he's making all these faces like somebody playing an electric guitar in the high notes, right? He's got that guitar face, like that. He's going, you sure you don't want it? I go, do it. Anyway, so I could do teeth work, no Novocaine, no nothing, right? That's it, stitch, good work. But he says, how'd that help anybody else? How did it inspire anybody else to handle their own pain? You blissed out. How does that help anyone else that's having real pain in their life? Physical, mental, spiritual pain. You need to suffer real spiritual, physical, and mental pain so you learn how to handle it as a normal person. I go, this doesn't sound like such a great deal. I said, wait a minute, let me get this straight. This is a whole argument going on in this other place, right? I said, you're telling me you want to give me more pain and suffering than I ever had? Yes. And she's telling me I don't have to do anything because I've done everything? Yes. And why should I do this? Tell me again. So that's when he did this panorama for me. And see, like all you faces right now on the screen, can everybody see everybody else's face or do they just see me? Okay, they see everybody's faces. It was like Brady Bunch on steroids. Here's the Brady Bunch, right? Everybody's looking up, down, side. It was like all these beautiful people, young, old, black, white, Chinese, Indian, Italian, everything, right? Even a crazy Irishman once in a while. It was all there. And she spreads, it just kept going and going and going. And she goes, she looks at it and the guru goes, if you leave, if you choose to leave, none of these people will ever be inspired by your future books, talks, helping hand, your smile, your hug, nothing. You owe them nothing. You owe them nothing. You've done what you're supposed to do. But they will lose something. And even with that, I'm going, that's tempting, but this is painful. And then again, he tells me, don't lose heart, skip a few beats. And then just as I'm contemplating all this, remember the defibrillators? Some real defibrillators on my body. They just hooked the artery back up and they just got to get the heart started, right? And all of a sudden they go, dink. And my body in India goes like that. And next thing you know, I'm laying in the darkness on a steel table, naked, in an operating room with my chest open. Tubes in my neck and back and everything. And I can't say anything. I got this big tube down my throat. And it's either my imagination. I don't know. I don't know how the procedure's done, but it felt like my eyes were taped shut because I couldn't open my eyes. But I was awake. And I'm trying to tell the doctor, but I can't. I got a tube down my thing and I got my eyes closed somehow. And I'm trying to say, hey, doc, I'm awake. Give me some more. And I hear him talking and I feel this and they're stitching up the rib cage and they're wiring it together and I'm feeling it all. And all I'm thinking is, that darn guru, he promised me more pain and suffering. He's delivered already early. What the heck's going on here, right? So the next 10 days, and those of you that have been with somebody that's had heart procedure lately, normal heart procedures, you go in one day, 3-4 days, you're out. They send you home, they kick you out, right? That's the normal. I was in 4 days before we started, and 10 days, I'm still there and I ain't out yet. 5 blood transfusions. They don't understand what's going on. Well, part of me was because I didn't want to come back. I realize now that a part of me really wanted to say, folks, it's fun here, but not that much fun. I'm checking out a Hotel California, man. But you know how Hotel California is. You can check anytime you want, but it's hard to leave, right? So a part of me really wanted to give up. But every time I fell asleep, catnapped, laid in the bed, had a dream, I was instantly transported back to the other body. Boom, real physical body. While my body was laying in the bed, I was back in India again with this circle of rishis. Going through that whole argument over and over and over and over again. I kept hearing for 10 days, multiple times a day, don't give up heart, you could skip a few beats. So I'm going, wow, this is crazy. So finally, they're taking me down for emergency procedure at 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And they put me in a gurney and they're getting ready to wheel me out of the room. And the phone rings. And I said, I got to answer that. They said, no. This is emergency. You're dying, man. I said, no, I got to answer that. I made such a big fuss. They said, let him answer it. So I answer it. And the voice goes, Bill, this is Gornoff in India. And I go, yeah, I know so many Gornoffs. Thanks for narrowing it down, right? So he goes, don't give up heart. You can skip a few beats, but don't give up heart. And I'm going, what? That's what he's been telling me for 10 days, right? And I'm going, what? And he says, now, I just told these 100 people at the ashram, they're all going up to the temple to pray for you, to add to the energy I told them I was given. I told them I was going to heal you. Now, you wouldn't want to embarrass me. It's not good karma to die if your guru was healing you. That's basically what he was implying, right? I'm going, holy cow, now a guilt trip, right? So now if I selfishly chose to leave, I've embarrassed the guru, just told him he's going to heal me and I die. That's not good form. It's embarrassing. I mean, the guru, I'm going to heal this guy and he dies. It's not good for anything, right? So the next day, after my 5th blood transfusion, I tell my wife, I said, I'm going to be out here in 36 hours. And the doctor looks at me and looks at her and he goes, I said, no, what do I got to do, doc, to get out of here? And then he gives you a list of stuff to do. And I did it. I was out in 36 hours. But just before I left, the day before I checked out, there was another prediction from that naughty palm reading. Remember that naughty palm reading? And in that prediction, it said that Lord Shiva in one of his forms, Babaji perhaps, would visit you and out of the sky or the air, drops of oil and water would bless your spiritual eye and, you'd be blessed and all this stuff by this great sage. And I thought that was metaphorical, thinking, okay, maybe the raindrops will come on my head and I'll visualize it coming from Jesus or God or Buddha or Lord Shiva or Babaji in this case, right? So then I'm sitting in the bed and all of a sudden I wake up and over my bed is this, if you took a glass fruit bowl and you turned it upside down, except it's giant. It's like, 12 feet by 10 or just big, huge bowl. And it's all energy. You could see the light through it. And this energy was just hanging over the bed. Nobody could come in, nobody could go out. And at the end of my bed, and here's weird because I didn't think about it at the time. At the end of the bed is Babaji with no shirt on. Of course, it's my visions, it's my things, right? So I'm thinking, well, of course, my Babaji is going to be wearing Levi's. Of course, he's barefoot, but he's got Levi's. He's in a hospital. He's got to be dressed up, right? And he's pouring oil and water on my head, and he's chanting in some ancient language that feels wonderful, but I don't understand it. And I thought, this was predicted. And I'm going, that's cool. Now, I'm thinking I'm on drugs. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm delusional. Maybe this thing is all really kind of in my head. But you know what? If you're going to have a crazy thing happen, this is a pleasant way to have it, right? So I wrote it off. I get home from the hospital. A day or two later, my daughter comes over. She's an adult. She comes over and says that this guy came over to visit her, one of our old neighbors, and said that he went to visit me at the hospital on my next to last day. And I said, no, he didn't. He says, oh yeah. He said he was in your room. He walked in, but you had some crazy Indian guy, young guy with long black hair, no shirt, barefoot, chanting some crazy stuff, pouring some oil and stuff on your head in a language you didn't understand. He didn't want to embarrass you because he kind of wanted to laugh, but he didn't want to embarrass you, so he left. So then I told my daughter the story, and my daughter goes, because she knows who Babaji is too. So that was that. I don't know. Do you call that whole sequence event? Was that a near-death experience, a near-death-like experience? Was that a second body experience? Was that its own category? I don't know. I throw it out there as a near-death experience. Technically, being hooked up to a machine for 6 to 8 hours, most of that time it's keeping me alive. You're kind of dead. But while I'm hooked up to that machine keeping me alive, I also realized, especially when I came back into that body, you could hear everything that's going on. And I'm wondering if people realize that when they're around dying people in a hospital, that what they say is the last thing that these people take out of the world. I really believe that hearing the audio, sensation, I really believe that's the last thing to fade away. And so that's the time to really, when I visit a friend that's dying in a hospital, they're literally dying, I always leave them that kind of loving, compassionate energy, like, I'll see you later, especially some of my old Vietnam vets, I'll see you later, buddy, They'll truly welcome you home up there. You never got the welcome home here when you came back. You'll get it up there. Trust me, it's a whole different homecoming. So anyway,
Well, Reverend Bill, let me tell you, this has been absolutely incredible. I have a few questions, but first of all, I just want to say, I know personally that sound hearing is the last thing to go, because I told Morgan when he was no longer breathing that we loved him, that we were proud of him and not to be afraid. And he hugged me, and I felt it from miles away. He was obviously at the base camp of Mount Everest, and I felt it here in Cave Creek. But also, I just wanted to say about your story, that King Cobra, Suzanne Giesman wrote a story when she was here in Arizona about having a snake come to her campsite that was enormous. It was a rattlesnake. It was just a Western diamondback, but she researched snakes and realized that they are a sign of spiritual awakening. And I'm sure you have learned that since, that this is probably something that was meant to be. And that King Cobra.
And the cobra itself is the symbol for the Kundalini energy.
Yes, exactly. Of course it is, which is really exciting stuff.
And so I had another run-in with a whole basket full of cobras. I don't know how much time we got here. People got questions, but yeah, I had another encounter I had one around my neck, giving me a butterfly kiss on the eyelash. Had his fangs still. Another one.
Well, we don't have a lot of time, but at the same time, I want you to come back and be able to answer these questions, because you have had such an incredible life. And one of the questions that Vanna is asking, and I think that this is something that would give all of us a lot of insight, is at which point in your journey did you feel at one with all? Did it surprise you? And thank you for sharing your adventure. What a blessing. Namaste. So I think that from what I understood, maybe it was at 8 years old, but when exactly was it that you felt that way?
Mine is, I'm on a different, I'm different. I haven't met a species exactly like me yet. At 2 years old, I was meditating. I was having visitors. I was having out-of-body experiences. I was having kind of unique spiritual transforming things happen before. So people say, oh, you had that near-death experience that changed your life. No. Well, the next one did. No. Well, the third one did. No. The rainbow body experience you had, which is another whole story. No. There's no one point in time that this triggered it. I always feel like I've always been this. I've always had this feeling of oneness. I mean, how many 2-year-olds were meditating in the 1940s? How many 9-year-olds are vegetarians in 1950s, California or anywhere? Come on, unless they're in India. So I've always been on this trek. And when I was young, I really debated, did I want to be a monk? I'm serious about that. Those was a real big debate. But when I had my life review or what future review, I didn't see it there. And I thought, well, that's not my purpose this time. It was like, okay, you've done that before. Now you have an obligation to other people. Sometimes you come into this life, it's not always about you. I feel that sometimes it's all about me, but no, it's not. No, it's not always about us. And sometimes the people that accompany us on this journey, this is the hard thing. People come with us on our journey. They're part of our family. They're part of our, immediate family or wherever. They've chose to make this journey with us. They're serving a purpose for us. They are our lesson keeper. Whether they're friend or foe, it makes no difference. But the people that you find yourself surrounded with in your immediate family, most especially, they're there for a reason. And some people just volunteer to come in for a short period of time, and they got to work out some things with this person. And when that's worked out, they're punching the clock. Their milk carton says time expired. It's time to go. You can't change that. And people go, because I get involved with people asking for healings and this and that to save my life. You know what? If it's your time, it's just like in combat. Guys all around me. This guy gets killed on this side. That guy gets killed. This guy don't. And you go, the guy that does it goes, why? There's no why. It wasn't your time. So when these people come to their life, especially, people probably talked about it before, but I have found when I read people and stuff, especially people that come through with handicaps of any kind, physical handicapped or even mental handicaps, they're there to inspire us. They choose all these handicaps, which makes a real tough life for them, but one that they burn lots and lots and lots of karma. So it's a speedy route. It's the fast track for them. And it also is to help pay us. How else can somebody learn compassion? If you're taking care of somebody that's really ill or somebody that is incapacitated for a long period of time, we're going to learn that kind of compassion unless it's there. And if it's your own, you're never going to, that's yours, you do it, right? So there's a lot of lessons to be learned. Even if you get angry and frustrated with it, there's a lesson there. So
that's beautiful. Well, I just want to say that when you were talking about your third experience and you were talking about the Brady Bunch appearing and knowing that you've completed everything that you needed to do, but that all of those people of all different nationalities would not be able to have the help that you're able to give them if you did pass, that was pretty amazing. It actually brought tears to my eyes. But I just want to tell you that people are saying, what stories like Autobiography of a Yogi, love this. This is what Iris just said. Jenny is saying, amazing, thank you for sharing. Galen is saying, extraordinary life, Reverend Bill. Thank you for sharing it with this family. Kevin, let's see. Patty B is saying, I love that. Anna saying, beautiful. Actually, Anna also loved the part about you talking about Machu Picchu because she's from Peru, which is wonderful. She's going to be our Helping Parents Heal Spanish speaking affiliate leader, which is absolutely wonderful. I'm very excited about that. She's also inviting Ingrid Honkala as her first guest, and she's going to be talking about her new, her book that's just recently been translated into Spanish, which is A Brightly Guided Life. And so she's going to be talking about that with her. Vana is saying, thank you for this lesson. But I just want to tell you that it's fascinating to me to think that at 8 years old, you would already be having these experiences, and that at 2, you would even understand that you were meditating. That's just an amazing thing. And you have had such an incredible experience. But I wanted to ask you, I know that you had so many medals and so many honors in Vietnam. Was it because you felt invincible? Was it because obviously you knew what was happening after and you just knew that nothing could touch you? Or was it, I mean, I'm just kind of amazed to think that any one man could have so many medals and so many things that happened to him during a war like that.
You know, it's interesting you say that. Just I always felt somebody was there protecting and guiding me. But when you asked that question, you know what flashed into my head? My grandson telling me about the helicopters he was flying in the war. And I was wondering, what if he was there? That was just a thought, you know, it was just, and then he comes back and now I'm his grandfather. It's
He was part of the battle with you.
Yeah.
Possible.
When I do these talks, there's always something, I always get a little new insight or a little nuances or something, because somebody stirs something in me and it's like.
That is, so everybody's saying wow in the chat box. Wow, indeed. Anyway, we do need to have a whole nother evening to be able to have you come back and tell us about your experiences and answer questions. But thank you so much for being here this evening.
About Machu Picchu.
And Machu Picchu as well. And Anna's saying, yes, please. So anyway, thank you so much for coming tonight, though. And please thank your wife for us as well. It was wonderful that she lent you to us for this amount of time. And we'll definitely figure out another time, maybe in a month or so, when you could come back and answer more questions for everyone. And thank you very, very much. By the way,
I'm one of these guys, if you had somebody cancel on at the last minute, if you give me 20 minutes notice, you got it.
Thank you. Thank you. And also, just to let everyone know, Brian Smith also did an interview with Reverend Bill McDonald that you can look up on YouTube. And he has been interviewed by so many people throughout the world. So if you're interested in learning more about his story, then you can definitely look him up by Googling him. And thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll definitely see you soon. And have a wonderful evening.
Namaste.
And
Thank you.
let's have everybody unmute themselves and say goodbye to Reverend Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And have a good night.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
Very much.
Bye.
Have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful
Thank you.
evening, everyone.
Bye.
I'll see you tomorrow.